In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to use media queries for your responsive design website. Now, probably because of the length of this content, I'm going to divide this up into a couple different parts. But for the initial part, we're going to go walk through how to set up the initial part of your page and kind of describe as to how these media queries work. So once again, we're going to be using Bootstrap. This is Bootstrap 3, not 2. And since Bootstrap kind of changed the way they did some of their media queries, so I've gone ahead and set up a boilerplate that you guys can access. It's on my website. So let's go back to Media Dreamweaver here. So I've got my basic page that I copied directly from the Bootstrap website. Now, obviously, as you can see right here, there's nothing special about it. Here I'm loading in Bootstrap, and there's no code in here yet. So first things first, we need to go ahead and create our own style sheet that we can then modify down the road. So let's go ahead, copy this. We're going to next line down. We're going to go ahead and call this styles. Go ahead and save that. Now we need to go create a new style sheet. So Command N, or just go up here to File and select New. We're going to create a style sheet. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and save this as within my folder here, Demo CSS. We're going to call this Styles. All right. Now we have two style sheets, Bootstrap and Styles. Now, this should be a little bit of a review from your first project. The reason why we order them this way is Bootstrap is our base. We want anything that we're going to be building is in addition to Bootstrap. So that means that Bootstrap will be first, and then Styles will be second. Because if you remember, the way CSS works is that it will always take the style that is most recent or last in the order. So if we want to modify Bootstrap, we need to stack the new styles on top of Bootstrap. Now, as a good rule of thumb, I try to keep my regular styles and my responsive styles separate. You could go ahead and put them in the same style sheet. One of the perks of doing that is you save space. You're not loading in nearly as many bits of space into your page, but it just helps to keep your stuff a little bit better organized and kind of keeps you sane. So I'm going to go ahead and call this responsive. Go ahead and save that. Go to Command N. Select another style sheet. Go ahead and save this. Once again, in your CSS folder. I'm going to call this responsive. Okay, for the immediate time being, we're just going to go ahead and close out this responsive style sheet because we don't need it. Okay. Now to start building our page, I am just going to start grabbing some Bootstrap elements here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do a basic Navbar. And instead of doing a gray bar, I'm going to do a black one, as you can see here. All right, go ahead and indent it, make sure everything's nice and neat. All right. Go back up here. I'm just going to go ahead and select all this. All right. Now, if this looks somewhat overwhelming, don't worry about it. A lot of the stuff in here you're never going to use. All this stuff that's over here, the form, as well as this this right align navbar, I am simply just going to get rid of everything. We go ahead and save that. Come back over here to our page, hit refresh, and we've got a nice, attractive black nav bar instead of a gray one. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and throw a couple other things in here. So, I'm a big fan of these Jumbotrons for whatever reason. Don't ask me why. Now, if you remember my first my most previous video, I'm going to go ahead and take this Navbar. Since I don't need it anymore, I'm just going to go ahead and collapse it. Go ahead and hover over it. You see everything's in there. I'm going to hit return. Hello world. Welcome to this most fantastic website. Save it. Go back over here and preview. Wow, there we go. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw this in a container. Keep everything centered. There we go. Now, what else? Let's do some breadcrumbs. Div class. Now I'm going to throw this and start throwing my stuff in rows here. Div class call 8. Whoops. There we go. Got breadcrumbs. Now, since the way breadcrumbs work is it basically kind of lets you know where you're at in the site. Well, since we're on the home page, we're not in data, we're not in library. So I'm going to take this active class, move over here, and I'm going to get rid of these other two. There, home page. Okay, and go ahead. Just as a reminder, remember Bootstrap works and sets of 12, so I'm going to go ahead and complete this. Call med 4. Okay. And for right now, I'm just going to throw a heading in here just so you can see that there's actually something here. We're just going to call this sidebar. There you go. Now, let's actually start throwing some content in here. Div class. I'm going to go ahead and call this section. Div class row. Oops, got off here. All right, now just for the sake of time, I'm going to be lazy here instead of typing all this stuff out. And I am simply just going to start copying and pasting things. I'm going to use my nifty little lorem ipsum plugin here. Go ahead and close my p tag. Okay. And as you can see, Dreamweaver doesn't exactly do that great of a job just moving stuff down exactly where it was. Okay, now as you can see right here, let's see, this awesome feature, this awesome feature. You know what? I think I'm just going to get rid of this sidebar. Make these breadcrumbs go all the way across because I don't like that. There we go. All right. So div class section. All right, let's save that. Now, go ahead and call this a well. Oops. And basically all a well is just grays out the text. All right. Now, I think this is probably pretty good. As you can see, using Bootstrap, we've got something that's pretty well responsive here. Okay, now we need to start defining some basic styles. So we've got a couple different sections here, 1 and 2, as well as our navbar. I think for the immediate time being, we're just going to go ahead and leave our navbar alone. Make sure everything works as it should. It does. Okay, great. What we're going to do is we're going to modify our Jumbotron, and we're going to start changing some colors of some things based on the media queries of the screen size. So for the media queries portion, we're going to go ahead and do that in part 2. But for this part, for the sake of this video, we're going to go ahead and start listing out some basic styles. So remember, we put all of our major sections in a div class section. So I'm going to start defining some basic styles here. So we're going to do padding. 50 pixels of padding on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Okay, I'm do just a basic color here. Do a nice pale gray. And we're going to go ahead and define our go ahead and leave our color as is. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do a blue section. And as you remember, since I am not modifying any of the padding or anything else to do with this section, I don't need to address that. When I label my div classes just like this, in order for these styles to work, the div has to have both a div of section and blue. Go ahead and find my background again. Whoops. I'm going to do that nice blue right there. Okay. Now, if we come over here, hit refresh, yay, we now have some gray sections. All right. You know what? I don't like these sections being in containers, so I'm going to go ahead and close my container. Bear with me here as I do some basic formatting. All right. Now, one more thing. I'm going to go ahead and this container right here, I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And we're going to go ahead and remove this section. Actually, we're going to leave that where it is. So, just in case if you're following along, now I've got a bunch of black text at the bottom. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and because since I don't like that well being in having a gray background, since it already has a gray background, I'm going to go ahead and say, call this white. And we're going to define it as the background is white. Go back to our HTML. White. And we're going to call this blue. There we go. So we now have a gray block, and we've got a blue block as well as a white block. Now I'm going to go back to our blue block, and I'm going to change the color of the text here. So if you remember, using a comma, I can essentially apply styles to multiple different things. So in this case, I'm going to do a p tag. I'm also going to do our h2s. White. There we go. So now we got some gray text, some white text, and just a basic well here. So I think this sets us up pretty good for the next video. And then we're going to, as I said, we're going to basically add some media queries that will modify this layout based on its screen size. Okay?